Good Saturday to everybody else out there. This is Eric Ozio here with Eric Robinson in the Eric Squared Circle podcast. We're here on Saturday, February 22nd with a very intriguing guest here today. Yeah. Eric, I was going to let you introduce Mr. CVV.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Happy Saturday to you, and welcome back to 3 Points.
God, I love Saturdays.
It's been a while since we've been down here, so it's good to...
it's only been a few weeks.
Yeah, it's good to get back down here to the friendly confines, and as you can see, we've got a very special guest with us today. The wrestling journalist extraordinaire, Chris Van Vliet, is here with us today. Chris, how you doing,
I'm doing great, Eric's, right?
Eric's
Squared. There's two of us. You can call us E's.
E squared.
Kind of, if you want to address both of us, it is a custom here on the show.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I haven't been here to this brewery, and I'm a big brewery fan. So I think after this conversation, I'll have to get myself a little Steve Weiser.
Absolutely.
Not during the conversation, because
that's okay.
No, we do not condone drinking while podcasting. We strongly are against it. We're drinking after podcasting, though. I can't speak for. But yes, here today, unfortunately, the last time Eric was down here, I got sick and was unable to come down, but I am very pleased and pleasured to be here with Mr. Chris Van Vliet.
Well, I hope you're feeling better.
This weather, I swear, in Ohio, I know you're leaving soon.
Lucky dog.
You're leaving behind 12-degree weather at 7 a.m. and 45-degree weather at 9:30 at night, and it just messes
I
with my
will say, though,
sinuses,
I spent 5 years in Cleveland, so, I'm very well aware of living in Ohio, and I've been here in Cincinnati for almost 6 months, and it hasn't snowed once this whole winter.
I think it's it does like a haze.
This is the best.
Like a mist snow. It's like a hybrid snow. The wind is what
it's
kills
chilly.
me.
It can be chilly, but today's like 50 degrees. This is
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know. Like I come down and I'm wearing my big black jacket and I'm like, it's cold in the shadow, not cold in the shadow. But I can talk about this weather for.
That's what people in Ohio do.
That's a thing.
Talk about the weather.
God. And construction.
And construction. Really those damn roads.
And our pullover hoodies. Our hoodies are strong. I'm not wearing. Yeah, I mean, when you get here, your hoodie game just becomes another level. I personally like to take personal pleasure in that.
Yeah. Well, again, we appreciate you coming down, and obviously, it's. How does it feel to be in this position, in this side of the chair?
Yeah, I'm not usually the one on this side of the microphone very often, but, I welcome it. And you guys got a great thing going with your podcast. Congratulations to you both on that.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I know that, podcasts in general are such a labor of love, and the fact that you guys have stuck with it is amazing. And
it's definitely been a challenge, and it's definitely eye-opening to how much work you actually have to
and I don't think people realize that. I mean, they think it's just like, we'll just turn on some mics and we'll hang out with our friends and put it out, and thousands of people will listen. It'll be great, and I'll make lots of money, and I'll be like Joe Rogan. And that's not exactly how it works, as we all know.
Not particularly how it goes. But I do appreciate being able to inspire other people. Like my younger brother's doing a podcast now on rock music out in DC. So giving people that opportunity to have a platform to themselves that they feel like they don't have. And talking about just, aimlessly talking on social media about whatever that,
Well, that's the kind of cool thing. I grew up in this era where, I was in radio as my first job, TV after that, and the gatekeepers are gone now. If you want to have a 2-hour-long conversation about pro wrestling, rock music, beer, whatever it happens to be, you can. That didn't exist, up to maybe 10 years ago. You had to be on a TV show and or a radio show, and you were doing it in 5 or 10 or 15-minute increments, and now you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean,
beautiful.
It really is.
Beautiful.
It really is. I mean, kind of having come into this world and into the social media age, what do you think are the best and worst things about the marriage of social media and wrestling, in 2020 right now?
I think the best and worst thing about not just wrestling, but just in general, is that the best thing is anyone can do it. Anyone can have a podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram account, Facebook page. And the worst thing is anybody can do it. And I think that kind of makes it both the best and worst thing, that anyone can have a voice, which is great, and also bad because anyone can have a voice. But I think the cool thing, though, is that the fact that we all do have a voice now. 15 years ago or 20 years ago when we were watching wrestling, WWE would put something out there and they would just think, this must have worked. And they would look at the ratings and go, it worked. Now they can instantly go on Twitter and see the terrible feedback or great feedback and go,
Yeah.
oh, wow, okay, we can maybe listen to that
Right,
and
and
learn from there.
20 years ago, all they had was Big Daddy Metzler to give them the information on what they feel was the benefits of wrestling matches or specific creative stuff that was going on. Now you have a litany of people going on there that I genuinely go on and listen to every single day when it has to come to wrestling. My huge Marvel fandom, everything else that I follow, and be able to get all those different accounts really kind of gives you a broader and a more specific idea of what you're enjoying. And like I think when you have individuals who are fans of wrestling, fans of football, fans of anything, and you have all those people, the worst thing is that you have more people, but you have people that give you the rawest opinions that you can have, and that's what I find very special about this. And I want that.
The cool thing is, if you have 12 followers or you have 12 million followers, you have one say. And I think that's the cool thing, is that the guy who has 12 followers on Twitter could get retweeted and shared by a whole bunch of people, and all of a sudden he has a really loud voice now, or she has a really loud voice now. I think that's what's really exciting about it.
Yeah, and it's so fluid, and it can change someone's life in a few hours.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
crazy. Absolutely. And like kind of being in this area, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from being here in Cincinnati, being in the social media presence?
It's great to be back in Ohio. So I lived in Miami for the last 5 years, from Toronto originally, and being back in the Midwest, there's just real magic about the people here. And they're like a real down-home, like good, genuine people, which, no offense to Miami, but no one's really from there. So nobody has the sense of pride in being from there. Like here, if you say OH, you immediately know it's going to come after that, right?
For sure. Yeah.
IO. Sorry.
Proud Buckeye over there.
Disorder.
Proud Buckeye fan.
Yeah, it's
so and just people are like really proud to be from here, and I think that lends itself to like people being really kind. Whereas like I moved to Miami and people were like, "Oh, where are you from?" "Oh, I just moved here from Cleveland," or "I'm from Toronto." It's like, "Oh, great, I'm from Boston, Chicago, New York, wherever they happen to be from." So it's nice to be back here with that feel of like home, and like I mentioned earlier, it's been really, I was expecting a super cold, terrible winter.
Right.
The fact that it hasn't snowed, I've been really enjoying this.
Yeah, I really am not a fan of the snow. I've been living in this state for 20 years now.
Yeah.
And I've had some of the worst winters. I remember 2013, 2014, when might have been the worst winter I've ever experienced, at least in recent memory. And honestly, the last few years, it's been
It all just whips through your soul,
It builds your character, and that's why we're all so strong here. We strong up with our hoodies. We get through the winter, we hunker down, and we love people, and we love our Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Well, we should all knock on wood that it doesn't snow. This isn't wood, but we'll pretend it is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We'll work.
I don't know. This feels like it might be wood. Plastic.
Like
I don't know. Whatever.
Metal, aluminum kind of.
Unfortunately, I don't have Daniel Bryan's eco-friendly championship belt, so we can't knock on that. Honestly, like I kind of want it. I want to feel that scratch from that from that material.
That was such a unique concept too, and I know we're kind of just rambling about just musings here, but
and it was a unique concept that helped build up another guy in Eric Rowan that's having a decent little mid-card kind of run.
I think what was so great about the eco-friendly title is it took his character to the next level.
For sure.
What an interesting concept for a heel. And then on top of that, he made the belt either super ugly or super beautiful, depending on how you were looking at it.
Yeah.
And I think that was like just one extra layer onto this already very layered character.
Definitely.
Especially someone that has gone through everything that he'd been through in terms of like having to come out in 2013, 2014, and being out for
a while.
Yeah. Apparently retirements aren't a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Edge is back. Paige will be back soon, I'm guessing, right?
I would imagine so.
I actually saw a thing on Paige and her injury is very similar to what Edge went through back in the day. Obviously, medical advances are better, you would think, than 10 years ago with Edge. You think that she could, but she's only still 26 years old. She can do a lot of stuff, and they already made a movie about her. I still got to watch it.
That's a great movie. Yeah,
really good movie.
Yeah, I heard it's good. It's on HBO, and I got it for another couple days.
There you go.
Time's running out, man.
Knock that
Time's
out
running out.
Actually, no, it was on Hulu.
There you go. Yeah, you got plenty of time now. Then
I got the Hulu. Shout out to them.
Yeah, but anyway, so first interview that you gave as a journalist, just take us back to early Chris Van Vliet. I mean, we've seen you rise in the ranks over the years, but what do you remember about the very first time you sat down and you're in that chair for the first time?
So my very first job was I was working as a news reporter in a small town just outside of Toronto called Peterborough, Ontario. And I was working as an intern there, and it was the most incredible experience I ever had. So to kind of back this up a little bit, they weren't going to give me an internship. They weren't even interested in it. It was about an hour drive away from my hometown, 60 miles, so an hour each way. And I went in during my spring break and basically sent the general manager of the station an email and said, hey, I'm going to be in your town next week. I'd love to come by and just talk to you about a possible internship. And he wrote back and said, well, we don't really do internships unless it's linked up to a school. But hey, if you're going to be in town, come on in. We'll have a conversation.
Yeah.
And this was a complete lie, by the way. I was not going to be in this town. I hadn't been in that town in like 10 years. It was an hour away.
Sure.
But he's like, if you're going to be here, let's, come on in. So I was like, great. I seized the opportunity. I created an opportunity for myself. Went in. He said, look, it looks like you've done a lot of stuff. I was on the radio station in my college town, and I'd written for the school newspaper. He's like, oh, yeah, we'll bring you in as an intern.
Yeah, sure.
My internship was me following one of their reporters out in the field like as they did their own thing. When you're in a small town like that, you write the story, you report the story, you shoot the story, you edit the story, you do it all.
Yeah.
2 weeks into my internship, after following the reporters around, the assignment editor said, here's your story for the day. And I said, oh, great. Well, which reporter am I going out with? He said, you're going out with Terry, but this is your story. You're going to be on TV tonight. 2 weeks into my internship. And it happened to be my 23rd birthday, just completely randomly. I'm like, what a birthday present this is. So I went out, and it's not a very exciting interview or a very exciting story, but I covered a high school track and field meet and interviewed some of the student athletes.
High school track
There you
captain
go.
right here, baby. 3-year
How about
letterman.
that? So that was my first
on.
ever interview.
Yeah.
And from there, it just I fell in love with it. I was already in love with it, and I really wanted to make this a career for me. But that was the first ever interview I did. My first wrestling interview was Bobby Lashley.
Yes.
2007.
I do like that hairdo, by the way.
Oh, jeez.
That's fresh.
Yeah, I had that
spice.
for about 7 days before my boss was like, hey, when are you getting your hair cut next? And I'm like, I don't know, probably in a
Shade.
month. She's like, actually, you're getting it cut tomorrow.
That's great. That's good.
No, and the first interview going back like that, and first interview with Bobby Lashley, I actually looked it up on the page.
I posted it recently.
And kind of watching a lot of different interviews, seems like you really kind of break down the wall, the guard that is the people that you're interviewing, whether it be wrestling, celebrities or anything like that. They're able to feel really comfortable, and they feel the genuineness, genuinity. I can't say
It doesn't
anything
matter.
anymore.
It doesn't
They can
matter.
feel that in your interview, and I feel like that is essential in being able to develop good camaraderie in that 45 minutes.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I think I just kind of realized early on that so many of us approach interviews like they are interviews. And this is,
Right.
what we're doing right now is no different than if we all met here and had a beer together. We wouldn't go, oh, my God, how am I going to fill 45 minutes? You would just drink a beer, you'd have a conversation, and it would flow. And when I started approaching my interviews like that, with great respect for the person that I was doing it with, and also having a ton of knowledge and doing my research, I just felt like the interviews just went that much better.
Yeah, I mean, it's like going through an exam. You actually prepare well. It's something that you actually enjoy preparing for, love preparing for, and it comes out in the interview.
Well, and kudos to you guys. I mean, I see that you've written down questions here. You've done your research, and
we do our production meetings here.
but I appreciate that, and any guest would appreciate that. And I think that that's a big thing that I think is lacking in the interviewing game. Is people think they can go in and just have a conversation, which I think you should. I think it should just be a genuine conversation, but there should be some knowledge behind it.
So the first interview, what do you think Big Papa Meltzer would give a rating on? It's a solid 5 interview, that first one.
So
maybe?
what I actually posted online, what you guys saw was like a 3.5-minute segment of a maybe 10-minute interview. Which, if you watch the 10-minute interview, like the raw interview, which is what I'm posting
I like
now,
the raw. I'm a raw fan.
I would think that interview would be like a 2-star.
Okay.
But then I watched it back, and I'm thinking, this was 13 years ago, everything being put into perspective.
Yeah.
I think the interview with Bobby Lashley wasn't terrible. I don't know,
it's
3, like a
For
solid 3.5 star.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I think it was it was okay.
Coming out of the
Definitely.
gates with the wrestling, especially a guy like Bobby Lashley, who he was the Trump man, going back.
That's
to,
right, yeah.
2005. He's very domineering kind of guy, but very, very inviting. It seemed like, even though the storyline that I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, did you see any indication that he would potentially steal
Lana from Rusev?
Lana, the Russian, like how could he do that to Rusev? It's Rusev Day every day. How can you do this?
He
to
was
him?
like maybe 2 years into his career, right?
Yeah,
Like
okay,
this
yeah.
was 2007, so maybe 2 years into like being on that big
That run,
stage,
yeah.
a big stage,
Right.
and I fought and hard and clawed to get this interview. So
Yeah.
I was hosting this TV show in Vancouver. It was after the job I had in that small town where I was doing everything. So I was in Vancouver, and I was hosting this amazing show on MTV2 Canada. Yeah, it was amazing, and the job was.
I haven't watched MTV2 in
Nobody
forever.
has.
But I mean, that was
So this
13 years
was
ago, so-
2007 when we were still playing music videos, at least like 3 times an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
So the job was like reviewing movies, playing video games, like interviewing celebrities, and then I saw that it was ECW paired with SmackDown. Remember when they were touring together?
Yeah.
Was coming to
Yeah.
Vancouver, and I reached out to like whatever contact email I could find at WWE, and I
Sure.
said, "Here's who I am, massive wrestling fan. I'll take an interview with whoever you got." And they said, Bobby Lashley's going to be in town like a month from now. I'm like, yes, done, amazing. And I
Right.
couldn't believe that like this
For
had
sure.
worked. I sent an email and oh my God, like now Bobby Lashley was going to show up to do this interview.
Yeah.
I was so blown away by that. And actually, like, I feel like that really like helped propel like this idea in my mind that like, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Sure.
I think a lot of people
True.
just sit there waiting for opportunities to come to them. And I went
Yeah,
out and like
absolutely.
sought out this opportunity and like did whatever I could do to make this happen. And as soon as I knew this interview with Bobby Lashley was going to happen, I'm like, okay, I need to like do my work, prepare,
Yeah.
make this thing happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be a
for sure.
catalyst. And like, I'm guilty of that too. Like just expecting things to kind of come
Yeah.
across.
And they will not.
And the way you want them to
Yeah.
come, they won't. You have to
Yeah,
reach
for
for
sure,
them,
for
no matter
sure.
what.
And actually, that's really a good segue because when you're on your show, you love vague goals, vague results.
Sure.
Tell me about the first time that you heard that phrase, and I mean, obviously it's had an impact on you, but the first time you heard it, what was kind of your feeling as far as hearing those words?
I don't think it was said specifically like that, but it was basically like you get in life what you ask out of life. So if you say, I want to make some more money this year.
Yeah.
Well, if you make $1 more this year, congratulations, you've accomplished your goal. I want to lose some weight this year. All right, well, if you lose 1 pound, you've lost some weight this year. And I think that these are just terrible goals that everybody's guilty of making. So I started like setting out very specific goals for myself with a timeline on them so that I was able to keep myself accountable to them.
Yeah.
And then I took it one step further by putting it out into the world. I put it on Instagram and I put it on my YouTube channel. It kind of caught on very quickly.
Nice.
And I've last year made a very specific goal of 100 interviews. Or actually, it was 50 interviews is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I accomplished it actually relatively quickly. But the fact that I put it out there, made myself accountable to it. I had people coming up to me all the time like, how many interviews have you done, man?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm at like 14. They're like, oh, great, you're on your way. And I had felt like I had like people cheering me on. Like,
For sure.
when you're running a marathon, people on the sideline like cheering you on. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I felt like I was doing. And I think that it was a really important thing to hold yourself accountable to it. So
Sure.
if you're looking to lose 20 pounds this year, I challenge you to put it out on Facebook. Go, I want to lose 20 pounds by July 31st.
Yeah.
And then you've got your friends and family members going, hey, man, maybe you don't need that extra burger. Maybe you don't need that extra chicken wing.
Yeah.
The funny thing, you bring up the weight loss. My mother is probably one of the most honest individuals I've ever met. She literally said last time I saw her, look a little fat in the face. Wow. I'm like, that sounds good to me. Sounds
Yeah.
good to me. All right. I take that and I take it full stride because she's a 30-year Air Force veteran. Like, shoots from the hip, does
Yeah.
not care.
Sure.
I'm like, I needed that.
Thanks.
Fat in the face. I'm gonna.
Hey, look, it's
French fries
hard,
at lunch.
or it's, I should say it's really easy here in Ohio. The food's so great.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I'll literally eat any type of potato in any
Wow,
way
I
that
hear
you
ya.
put it possible. So like I that's just me. But
Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Eric Squared Circle Show. If you liked what you heard, take a quick second to leave us a review, and if it's a 5-star, we'll read it on the air. We really want to hear from you guys, so if you have a question, trivia, interview ideas, or any other suggestions, we want to hear them. Shoot us an email at ericsquaredcircle@gmail.com. And don't forget, you guys are the reason that we do this show. It's the ultimate show by Smarks, for Smarks, so what's not to love? Let's keep the discussion going on Twitter using the hashtag E2SC and join our server on Discord. last but not least, subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you turn on notifications because you'd be crazy to miss anything it is that we're doing right now.
You know, in terms of an interview, regardless if it's whatever platform or whatever way that you're bringing the interview or what you're discussing, you know, what is at the core your belief to be the best thing to have in every single interview?
I think the biggest thing for me is I want to hold a mirror up, and I want to be the person who's watching. Yeah. And I want to put myself in their shoes and go, hey, I know you might not be able to sit down with Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Tessa Blanchard, The Rock, whoever it happens to be. But I want you to feel like you are in my chair.
Sure.
And at the same time, I also want to hold a mirror up to the person that I'm doing an interview with. And I don't want them to just rhyme off the same answer that they've always given in all these other interviews.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to, maybe approach things in a different way. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've done.
And it seems like it's thought provoking. Like they're having to turn the gears in when they're getting interviewed. It's like, oh, okay, like it's not just this cookie cutter, the generic kind of questions and answers. It's more of a, again, thought provoking. I'm gonna have to really kind of go back and search the database.
I just, a lot of wrestlers are used to answering the questions of, whatever, things about wrestling. And I'm a big fan of some other podcasts like, I think Jay Shetty has a very interesting podcast. He used to be a monk, and now he dives in deep on these interviews. Lewis Howes has a podcast called The School of Greatness, and he kind of dives deep into what makes someone tick.
Sure.
And we've gone deep in some of these interviews, like talk to Kurt Angle about his drug addiction, which I didn't expect that to come out.
He's one of the most honest.
Oh my God!
People I've seen come off in everything he does in his wrestling and his interviews and his person out and amongst fans. He's just the same exact person. It seems like.
Yeah, the interview I did with Ryback last year. I did that at Double or Nothing in Las Vegas last May. He credits me for completely changing his career. At the time, he had 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. And we put up that interview. It now has 700,000 views.
Oh, wow.
His YouTube channel, maybe a little bit because of me, started to take off because I just let people know, hey, it's out there. But then he started seeing the reaction he was getting. People thought he was a bully. People thought he was an asshole from the character he had played on WWE.
Right.
Yeah.
And this allowed people to see the human side of him.
Sure.
And it really humanized him to all the fans out there. So he started putting out these YouTube channel or videos on his channel, which just made his channel take off. He now has 200,000 subscribers in 7 months or 8 months or whatever it's been.
And I always think he definitely got the raw end of the deal when it comes to in-ring creative and how he got swayed out. He just, to the fans, he didn't come off as this super exuberant and charismatic. But I always kind of saw it is, but you kind of sell him as a generic kind of just big guy, and it's he's more than that. He's more than just. I mean, he's got range, he's got character, and he's funny. He's generally actually pretty
I think
funny
we'll
guy.
See him back in the ring at some point this year. I don't know where, I don't know when, but I think we'll see him back in, and hopefully that begins him back on that path to us seeing him on TV frequently.
Well, I saw you getting those gains with him, so I would hope so.
Yeah, he's a big man. Wow.
Yeah, he's a beast.
As we're talking a little bit more about Ryback and his personality coming out through podcasts, what do you think about the trend of wrestlers getting into podcasts? Seeing WWE do their own series and Lillian Garcia with Chasing Glory. Just in general, it seems like everybody that's had some role in wrestling is starting to get into that podcast game. Why do you think that we're starting to see that trend there in 2020?
I think the fact that anyone can have a voice is what's so exciting now. We talked a little bit about social media earlier, but the fact that anyone can have a voice and put it out there. And I do have to say, I'm surprised that WWE is allowing this to happen, because for the longest time, WWE kind of clamped down on what they wanted their talent to do or say or look like or be like. And the fact that they're kind of letting them do their own thing, I think it's really interesting.
Contractually, they're still all independent contractors. So in a way, it's they should be able to go on and speak about this stuff. They're never going to go out and wrestle for anybody else. It's always going to be for Mr. McMahon. But having the ability, you're broadening, you have a very specific niche group of fans, I feel when it comes to wrestling, and the ability to, because I feel the goal of our show, turn non-fans into casual fans, turn casual fans into super fans. We want more people involved in this industry as fans, because we know what it can deliver in terms of, just sports entertainment in general. Obviously, the big football, the basketball, baseball are always going to have everything that they want. But knowing that what we know about this industry and like all of us and what we want to bring to it, everybody should have something involved in when it comes to this stuff.
I think that for the most part, these podcasts are coming from a place of passion and love for the industry. And I think it's exciting. If fans are a really big fan of whomever it might be, now they get a little bit more from that person. So I think that it can only help. It can only help the industry as in general. That if we can be able to tap into a little bit more of the people that we like and the things that we like about them.
Sure. Yeah.
The competition in podcasting just as relevant as the competition in the ring itself amongst TV broadcasting is going to only build this industry up in the best way possible.
It's such an interesting time to be a pro wrestling fan, which subsequently it's an interesting time to be a wrestler as well.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just so exciting. You know, there's so many opportunities right now, and I hope this pendulum continues to swing and allow this to be even more exciting. I hope that the growth continues and doesn't, start to go the other way.
I think it really will, and kind of harping back to your history as a fan. We're here for the fans, by fans. What is your first kind of vivid wrestling memory, whether it be just watching on TV, being at a show, or just seeing somebody on the street?
Whenever we would go to my grandparents' house, my grandfather would have wrestling on Saturday night. So this is late 80s, right? We're talking
Golden era, baby.
We're talking Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter, the larger-than-life characters.
Sure.
And I was so drawn to it. I don't remember being a wrestling fan at the time, but I just remember being that's interesting and that's cool, and those guys are doing something that's really fun. It was the late 90s, the Attitude Era, when I really dove into it head first. I had some.
It was.
Right.
I had some friends that were big-time wrestling fans. Would watch Raw every Monday night and would switch, between that and Nitro.
Monday night.
And I remember talking to my buddy on the phone on Monday nights, and as soon as 9 o'clock would come around, because that's when Raw used to start at 9, he'd go, "I gotta go, wrestling's on." I'm like, "Why do you watch this stupid thing?" And I was a high school wrestler at the time, and when you're a high school wrestler, an amateur wrestler, you don't want anything to do with pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And I just started watching one night after we hung up the phone, and I'm like, "This is pretty cool." It was Austin McMahon was the big feud at the time.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And my parents hated it.
Yes.
So much so
Been there.
that my dad was like, "You're not watching this." I remember my dad calling it pornography. Yeah, and
maybe at WrestleMania 2003 in the pillow fight.
I think it was
maybe.
Sable with the bikini handprint bikini.
Dean Sable.
Oh, amazing.
God love you, Brock.
So I would be watching Raw in the basement on the old TV, and I would hear my dad coming down the stairs, and I would quickly hit the last button.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just watching the hockey game. Yeah, like a good old Canadian boy. And eventually he caught on.
I was watching Gretzky, man. Leave me alone.
Eventually he caught on, and he's like, no, we don't want you watching this. And I'm like, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it anyway.
Oh yeah.
And then I got involved in a backyard wrestling federation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Chris Sharp was my wrestling name.
Nice.
Yeah, he's sharp talking, sharp walking, sharp dressing. Cutting a promo on you right now.
We do not discourage promos.
Well, Chris Sharp was the HCW champion. He
Nice.
was heavily inspired by Triple H.
Just a one-time
He was
champion?
a two-time
or were you
champion.
multiple?
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
we only
That's
had the
pretty respectable.
HCW for 2 years.
No, that's solid.
It was two
Backyard,
summers
yeah.
basically.
I mean, that's
That's solid. Yeah.
my
that's
my
very
biggest
solid.
rival was Mark Mayhem and Danny Courageous.
I already
Yeah.
hate him.
Nobody
so,
liked Mark
so
Mayhem.
what was your finisher?
Oh God! So I did That's Incredible. Just incredible, the spinning tombstone into and then that would be the setup move. I don't know how that's a setup move. And then I would do the Swanton Bomb.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
jump off a
Yes.
table because we didn't have ropes or anything. So jump off a table. I should post a clip of this soon so
You
people
should.
can see how
I
ridiculous
would
it is.
strongly suggest that, and then we can just spearhead that straight out.
Yeah,
of
if
the
you
gate.
guys want to see him release this clip, let us know in the comments.
Please
Yeah,
let us know.
Chris Sharp.
We want to know
I should
what you
post
have
a
to
Chris
say.
Sharp promo because they were pretty bad. They were like along the.
Bad as in good.
I mean, good for a 16-year-old wearing a Hanes tank
That's the
top
perfect kind of. That's perfect
and having
for me.
a bad leather jacket and these little glasses that I wore. But it was
That's
the
awesome.
promos were along the lines of well, I'm the best, and you know it. And this Sunday, I'm going to prove to you why Chris Sharp is the absolute best HCW champion that there's ever been. like some like really bad stuff.
It sounds like very Le Champion kind of like.
It was just bad, you know, nothing original about it. I think there was I remember I had the title on my shoulder, and there was a little kid in the crowd, and I'm like, it's a nice title, isn't it? Do you want to touch it? Ah, you can't.
Love it.
Pulled it away from.
That reminds me of the
Total
time we were
heel move.
sitting. That reminds me of the time we were sitting ringside. Best seats I have ever had in any event at a SmackDown at the Nutter Center in Dayton, Wright State Nutter Center. Like these kids, little kids in front of us. Kevin Owens slams against the back onto the sideboard, and he's sprawled out, he always just stays sprawled out. And then one of the kids touches his arm. He's like, "Get off me! Get off me!" This is a 7-year-old kid at the max.
Just such a heel. Such a heel.
And
Such
he's
a
just
heel.
"Don't touch me!" And the kids were like, loved it. He's just perfect. I love the heel move. You know, kind of going into back your wrestling fandom and how it built up. We always have our top wrestling in every sport. We have our top guys. We have our most. I guess you kind of put it with influence on the sport itself, fans, their impact, and everything else. Who would you say is your Mount Rushmore of wrestling? It can be in any kind of production, promotion, faction, anything like that. It can be I mean, I wouldn't say this, but for sure. But if the Four Horsemen or just one part of the Mount Rushmore, you could say.
Well, I actually did this on my YouTube channel about a year ago, and it was difficult for me to really hone into this.
We like to ask the difficult
so it
questions
was difficult because I just interviewed Rock and Hogan. Sorry, let me back this up. So I've interviewed both of them, but I interviewed Hogan and Flair together.
Oh wow!
So I was doing a wrap up for this video, and I said, I think that those two have to be on everyone's Mount Rushmore. I would just think it's Flair and it's Hogan. So I said, so who's the other two? And I think that this question's very difficult to answer. It matters on how old you are, the era you were watching,
Absolutely.
the era you started watching, a lot of these different things. But I think for me, it's Hogan, Flair, Undertaker. I mean, it's such a legend. And then the last one's so difficult.
the last
and
one,
I think it could
difficult,
lean
honestly.
towards The Rock. I think it could lean towards Austin. I think you could make a strong case for Vince McMahon being on there.
Yeah.
Bret Hart's
Yeah,
obviously
yeah,
incredible. Shawn Michaels is incredible. The list goes on and on and on and on and on.
Truly,
I would argue that The Rock has now become more famous for being Dwayne Johnson.
Sure.
For his acting career. In fact, there's a lot of people don't even know that he was a wrestler. Or if they did know he was a wrestler, they didn't know anything about his wrestling career. So my final spot goes to Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Very nice.
who completely basically created the Attitude Era and carried that through until the Ruthless Aggression Era.
Stone Cold, the only 3-time Royal Rumble winner, my favorite pay-per-view. So another reason why I think he's the one of the GOATs. And I know that Jericho always say that, and
He wears his Alpha and Omega.
But he invented holding two belts, two belts, and subjectively, I would put Chris Jericho on there probably above the Undertaker personally, but The Undertaker, I didn't experience The Undertaker as much myself as a wrestling fan. Obviously, kind of when I really started watching wrestling consistently is when he lost to Baezer at WrestleMania.
I can't watch it.
I was there.
I can't watch
Yeah.
it again.
At WrestleMania.
I think the thing
What
is,
was that like?
oh, it was crazy. The whole crowd just went silent, and people are just looking around.
75,000
People looking around
are
like,
just like, what the
did
hell?
you see that?
Did
right?
that actually? But
Yeah.
really? What?
Yeah.
I remember watching the whole match again, and I'm just like, where in this match does he really lose grip on Lesnar? And it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
So
It's
the
just out
crowd
of
goes
nowhere.
completely silent, sucks the air out of the entire building for, I would argue, the rest of the show.
Yeah, and it really kind of set the tone. I love seeing Daniel Bryan come through all that resiliency, all that trouble to get through Evolution, to get through the Authority, and win the WWE Championship. And I felt the crowd was pretty into it still at that point, but it just seemed like it was kind of just stuck at a certain level. It was not going to get.
Oh, that was cool.
Raising
Yes-a-mania,
Arcus.
ending with everyone doing yes and the confetti
Yeah,
fall
yeah,
from
it
the
was
sky.
great.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
It was great, but that came out of nowhere. I was just
Yeah.
Undertaker for me is definitely one of those guys. I just want him to do right by him. How it finishes out correctly. And we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see how this thing finishes
too.
out, but. I would agree with you on that, other than potentially Jericho Undertaker mix.
It's looking pretty good that we're going to see Undertaker and Styles at WrestleMania this year in Tampa. So, I mean, if Taker can have a match like a match of his life basically at this point with Styles, who's still at the top of his game.
Well, AJ Styles can make anyone look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's why they he literally makes. If you can make Shane McMahon look good,
Yeah.
Come on, Shane
you
McMahon
can make pretty
is
much
good.
anybody look good.
He is.
Yeah,
He is.
He's good. He's good.
He
He's
is.
good. I just kind of feel a stiffness, I guess, sometimes when he's out there,
Right.
kind of like, give me a little something else. He's got his consistent move. The last time he faced anybody was
I think it was his.
it wasn't that match
loser-
against AJ Styles.
Loser leaves SmackDown. Yeah, right.
Kevin
When
Owens.
they made the switch
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Fox.
that's
I
what it was
think
last
a
year.
cage
Last
match
year,
and
okay, now I remember.
All of that.
Yeah, no, I think those are the people and there's so many. That's why I love this, this industry,
For
this
sure.
sport. That
Yeah.
there's so many people that have had such a big impact on fans and other wrestlers.
Yeah,
No doubt.
definitely.
And you see The Rock's daughter is now signed
Yeah,
with
trained in
WWE.
PC.
Yeah. I
entry
met
level.
her a few years ago at a red carpet event that The Rock was doing for Ballers. And The Rock's mom is the sweetest, nicest,
believe it.
most amazing
She's
woman,
really
Ada.
nice.
And
Yeah.
I was chatting with Ada, and then Simone came over, and Ada goes, "Oh, she wants to follow in her father's footsteps." I said, "Oh, she's going to become a movie star?" No, she wants to become a wrestler. I'm like, wow.
That's awesome.
First ever fourth generation star.
Yeah.
And she was, I don't know, 14 or 15 at the time, I guess. I'm excited to see what she can do. And The Rock is
sure.
Yeah, no.
The Rock's next level.
We talk about women empowerment in this country, everything else that we want women to be able to do. I don't see more of a push forward when it comes to women than anything else than I do in
Yeah.
wrestling. Like, they really are looked at as the same playing field as men in that essence. And, you see they changing the belt names and stuff like that, but I don't care about any of that. I think women have made their own mark in this, and you can consistently put any type of woman purely on what they've done for women in this industry now. I could easily put Trish, Lita,
Bella's new
anybody
Hall
up
of
there
Famers coming this
Right,
year. Yeah.
to be on there as well. So that's another reason why I love this sport so much. Just like women bring a lot to it, more so than they would assume they bring a lot to other things. Like there's no barriers for
For
them
sure.
Well,
in
and
this industry.
WWE's had to make a big correction on that.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
the Give Divas a Chance hashtag was a real thing.
Yeah.
And they weren't giving them a chance. And UFC had to make that big correction too. Dana White had said, no, a woman will never fight in UFC. And now look how much money they're making off of.
Absolutely.
He made so much money off Ronda Rousey and
Yeah.
continues to make money off of some of the other incredibly talented
Chris
female
Cyborg going
fighters.
home,
Right.
yeah.
It's they're both benefiting on each other, both UFC and WWE, because they're moving over. It's kind of interchangeable
Yeah.
for several different
Yeah.
talents that are kind of moving from UFC to WWE.
Yeah.
It seems like once their fighting careers, because they can only do that really for so long consistently. WWE wrestling promotions doesn't take as much damage to the body as you think it would in terms of a MMA fight, but I mean, you're still conditioned to be able to take that.
I think
punishment.
WWE is basically saying with this women's evolution, they're trying to go, oh, forget about that stuff we used to do because look what we're doing
that
now.
never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That never
like-
happened.
Yeah. Like, honey, don't worry that I used to cheat on you because I get you flowers all the time now and I'm super sweet. I feel like it's like, yeah, this is a nice adjustment and it's a nice change. And I think you have to give a lot of respect to WWE for the changes that they have made as quickly as
Yeah,
they've made them.
absolutely.
But I
Definitely.
don't know, can we just forget the past that happened? I don't know, because that was a long tenured past.
They say it before every single show. Then, now, forever. I remember
Very much so.
everything. Like,
Yeah.
you have to take into account. You have to take into the history of WWE, just like people's own history in their own personal life and in the world itself. Like, you have to learn from it no matter what, and continue growing from it. Like, obviously, we're past the pillow fight days with
Yeah,
Jonathan
yeah.
Coachman, but there's still many things that I feel women can do. And we saw 2 years ago the first steel cage match.
Oh, yeah.
The first
Women's War Games.
Elimination Chamber, War Games, Royal Rumble, and these are just all building blocks to be able to bring them into the same. And I still obviously love different parts of the men's wrestling compared to the women's
Yeah.
wrestling. It's
Well, there's going to be a point in 3 or 5 or 10 years or whatever where we're not going to go, that's a women's match, that's a men's match. We're just
Yeah.
going to go, that's a wrestling
Yeah.
match. And I think we're heading in that direction, which is
right.
an amazing thing for wrestling.
And who would you say at this point in your career in journalism is a wrestler, current wrestler, that you have not interviewed that you would be very intrigued?
There's a long
interested in?
list. I haven't been
Yeah.
able to do a lot of WWE interviews. They're really tight on who they give permission to.
Sure.
Brock Lesnar would be a fascinating interview. The Undertaker would be a fascinating interview.
And they don't give many interviews at all.
The number one interview, though, and it's on the bucket list, it's the number one interview I want to do is Vince McMahon.
Oh, yeah.
What a fascinating conversation that would be.
Same as well for you.
Yeah, that's a big one for me.
Yeah, so Vince is the number one interview that I want to do. It seems unlikely because he really doesn't do many interviews outside of outside of maybe a massive like Fortune, or Forbes magazine or something like that, or maybe something on ESPN, or definitely internally. He does a lot of stuff internally, but Vince is the one that I'd love to do. I'm going to keep throwing that out there every time I get asked this question. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm going to keep putting it out into the world and see what happens.
Hope for the best, yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'd say a wrestler I would love to have on there.
Then Les Champions.
Oh, Jericho's great. I texted with him yesterday. I'll tell him you say what's up.
Dude, I've been following the Fozzy on Instagram for like 5 years now. I just can't get enough of him, dude. I remember when he became Le Champion, just like maybe a month afterwards. He was at a hockey game like last year, and he's just like I'm back. They keep putting him on the.
That's right. Yeah.
He's like, I'm back. Hey, you doing? I'm champion.
He's amazing.
Take it easy. Like it just innovated after innovating, and like man's almost 50 years old, and I literally could watch him till he's 60,
he turns 50 this
old.
year, and he told me in an interview that he's actually modeled his career after David Bowie, and how David Bowie reinvented himself on every single album, a different look, a different sound. And Jericho said, when I came out with this new gimmick, I didn't want people calling me Y2J. He's like, because I was gone. And every time, it's true, every time he's done a new reincarnation of his gimmick, he gets rid of all the old catchphrases, the completely different look, and he somehow gets himself over.
I'm seeing all these. I go back the Ayatollah of Rock and Roll, the Y2Js, the best friends.
A little bit of the bubbly.
A little bit of the bubbly. Yeah, I almost wore the bubbly shirt. Like,
what a brilliant idea that was.
It's like a big thing with me in wrestling. Like I want to be compelled and I want to be able to laugh. Like genuinely, I'm not laughing at you. Like I'm just like so enthralled with what you're doing, and it's so funny. He consistently just cracks me up, and like even though he's been a heel for the good part of the last couple of years, like, man, I think I'll take heel Jericho over babyface Jericho most of the time, just because he's more unhinged.
Well, he has this amazing quality about him that even though he's a heel, even though he's saying terrible things, you can't help but going, man, clap, 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 you're so good.
I mean, he'll come out and just say, like, Cincinnati crowd, like, you're a bunch of Cincinnatians, you're disgusting.
It's like, woo!
I'm just like, I am disgusting. I love you for bringing it out of me.
I love that the crowd is now singing along to his entrance theme every single time he comes out.
I will say I do miss his WWE entrance theme. That was like break the walls. I do miss that, and unfortunately they have the copyright for that. But I mean, he's just he reinvents his. And we were talking about how he like a cruise that he sponsors. His band is the one leading the show, and he is the champion of this promotion. That like he's just owning everything about it.
And I think what's so amazing is he's done all this within wrestling. I feel like everyone else has felt like they needed to leave wrestling to become a bigger star.
Sure.
Batista and The Rock obviously immediately come to mind. But Chris Jericho has done this all. Like, #1 wrestling podcast in the world.
Yeah.
His band is crushing it. They have a song in the top 10 rock charts right now. The Jericho cruise is just mind-blowing how he's been able to put that together.
Yeah.
And our goal, at least my goal, I think our goal is to be able to record this show next year.
You can do that.
The Norwegian.
On that ship.
That's an easy goal.
Like, easy goal. It's I don't try to go too far. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew, but that is something because I've been wanting to go on that cruise ever since I heard about it in 2017, and tried to get my buddy Rob, our friend Rob, to go on it. It's just it's kind of a nudging thing. It's like WrestleMania.
I get it.
Or the cruise.
The Rock and Rager. Like, which one do you want to do? And for me, like the Rock and Rager, I'm just like, I just want to.
Look, it's a big investment, not just in money, but in time as well. You're taking a week off of work.
Absolutely.
You're going to be spending a few $1,000s, and then you're going to be spending some more money on drinks. Got to get a flight into Miami. I mean, it's a lot. But I think it's well worth it. Like you said, you're hanging out with wrestlers for a week.
For sure.
It's a goal. I want it.
I'm sure he'll announce it soon. And the pre-sale will be, right after that. There you go.
Yeah.
Vague goals.
Pitter patter.
Vague results.
Maybe he'll make a little appearance for me, Chris.
Obviously, wrestling journalist extraordinaire is you.
Thank you.
What's your favorite
Extraordinaire.
non-wrestling podcast right now?
I would actually say, and this might shock a lot of people, the podcasts I listen to aren't wrestling. I listen to the School of Greatness. I'm going to list off podcasts people haven't even heard of, although they're big podcasts in the realms that they exist in. So I listen to almost every episode of the School of Greatness with Lewis Howes, who I think is incredibly inspiring and is doing amazing interviews. On Purpose with Jay Shetty, I listen to almost every single one of his episodes, and the Ed Milet Show. I'm very big into self-development. I'm very big into trying to be the best version of myself.
Absolutely.
And I think that podcasts are such an interesting thing because you're basically eavesdropping on a conversation of two people who, with the podcast I'm listening to, are super knowledgeable about stuff that I'm not knowledgeable about. So I just feel like it's kind of like if we were to be having a beer here, but like Tony Robbins and Bill Gates were sitting at the table next to us, we wouldn't be sitting here continuing to have our beer. We'd be like, what are they talking about over there?
What's being
And
said?
I think that's a really fascinating thing about podcasts. Kind of like what books do. Books condense some 10 or 20 years of someone's knowledge into something you can read in a few days. And I think that podcasts do the same thing. It takes someone's knowledge. Like if you were to have lunch with that person, well, now you're just kind of listening to someone having lunch with that person. So those are the podcasts that I'm always subscribed to. I also subscribe to the Chris Van Vliet Show.
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
You guys have heard of that one?
I think we should have you check
if
out.
you haven't,
Please,
do.
yes, please. I'm really trying to make this a thing, and I haven't put this out there. I haven't talked about it a lot publicly, but I actually stopped working at my TV job last September. I was hosting a show called Deco Drive in Miami. I'd been there for 5 years, been in television for 15, and I just saw that there were more opportunities outside of that. My YouTube channel was growing, my podcast was starting to take off. I'd done a few dates with AEW, and I'm like, you know what? I want the opportunity to do more, and I want the opportunity to kind of bet on myself, and it's the best decision
Nice,
I made.
man. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Very low risk there.
Wow,
And
thank
like
you.
podcasts, just mostly because you're very innate, very good. It seems like so. Like it's just brings that more of that atmosphere, that exposure that we need to be getting
Yeah, so
to yourself.
go ahead,
But-
go ahead, buddy. Sorry. No, huh?
Oh, no, you go ahead.
What are we doing?
Oh, no, you.
You guys are too kind.
We
Who
try.
should go first?
Well, I would say that, podcasts, what we're trying to do, again, like we want to turn, I think of us as wanting to turn the casual fan into a super fan, the non-fan into a casual fan, and see what we can do bringing that up that way. What is your favorite thing about interacting with us as wrestling fans and, anything that kind of sticks out to you, like any special event, like the best experience that you've had kind of with fans and wrestling fans just in this industry?
Oh, the great thing about wrestling fans is it's kind of like that scene in Step Brothers when you're
Great
like,
movie.
did we just become best friends? Yep. And that's
yeah.
exactly what wrestling is. Like, us three may have nothing else in common. I don't know that much about you guys, but we may have nothing else in common other than wrestling, but it's the common bond that makes us instant friends.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, even to us, are very critical of the wrestling industry. And, I always take the criticism in full stride, and I always bring back that it's like, I love stories. I love creative stories, and why can't I enjoy a story that plays out in a squared circle, E squared? Just a little stone there. I don't really see the issue in, like, people love stories, and why can't I love a story that involves physical pain?
Yeah, I don't know why we have to defend it so much. You know what I mean? I don't know why we have to defend wrestling and like explain it. It's fake, right? I'm like, well, that movie you watched the other day is also fake, but no one's calling it fake. Yeah, but it's different with wrestling because it's like live, and I'm like,
It's not
okay. Have you
always
ever been to a play?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, live in person. Like, you ever been to a play? That's not real either.
It's not real, brother.
Yeah, so I think that wrestling is this common thing that brings us all together, and that's what
When
I
when I
really
find
love
somebody
about
that
this.
it's like I love meeting new wrestling fans, and like when I go to when I was going to the Elite, the Ring of Honor shows back when they were before AEW, like watching the Elite, or like just going out, like went to a house show, go to the U.S. Bank, like being able to just kind of collaborate with those people is always interesting. But like just like some of those people that came up here just now, they're not wrestling fans, but they're intrigued, and I love the opportunity to be able to intrigue them further and be like, yeah, I know you love MMA, you love jiu-jitsu, you love wrestling. I wrestled in high school as well, so it's like
Yeah.
I have a strong respect for that, but like I want to be able to like I wouldn't say like bring you over to our side, but like I want to give you the opportunity to at least see what we see and like see a different perception of what a lot of people have been telling you. Let's face it, like misperceptions on, in my opinion.
The deeper I dive into wrestling, the more niche I realize that it is. And then you can get niches on niches once you're really inside of it. But the interesting thing is the average person on the street, like there's someone walking down the street right now, she probably knows what WWE is, but probably doesn't know what Impact Wrestling is, or Ring of Honor, or even AEW or NWA.
WGP.
I find that really interesting.
And, like, having that opportunity and then like meet new fans that can give you new perspective and different views on it. I mean, that's how we got Chris here.
Just literally shoot my shot and hit you up on Twitter, and
he was able to meet Chris at All Out at Chicago, and
I remember.
Fantastic
it was great.
show, and like that just gives that opportunity to be able to just bring and collaborate more information with more fans, like because we're all just fans here.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan like the rest of you guys, and I just happen to really go after this. And I didn't think I'd be interviewing the people that I've been interviewing, but my TV career kind of allowed me to kind of open the door a little bit to wrestling interviews, and then I saw that wrestling fans really like these, and no one else was really doing it in the way that I was doing it. So I wanted to go out and do it as big as I possibly can.
Absolutely.
So I'm driving to Chicago this week to do interviews with AEW.
Nice.
I was just in Vegas for Impact. I did some interviews with their taping. I drove to Atlanta. It's about an 8-hour drive from here. Did 7 interviews at NWA. And I think that at the heart of this, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, but at the heart of this, I think too many people don't take the opportunities that are given to them. And then I think beyond that, don't realize that there is an opportunity on the other side of creating an opportunity. If there's not a door there for you to knock on, build a damn door. And I think that too many people don't do that. They go, well, I would never be able to do an interview with Jake Hager or Chris Jericho.
Well,
have you asked? Well, no, but I mean, and I think that's a big thing.
Assume. My mom tells me all the time.
The answer's always no when you don't ask the question. And I think that that's a big takeaway, is the answer's always no when you don't ask the question. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah.
They say no, or they go, or they don't respond, or you see they read it and they don't respond, and you're like, that's not very nice of you. That's the worst. That's the worst thing. They're not going to like laugh in your face or anything.
For sure.
So I just think that's an interesting thing to just kind of keep in mind if there's anyone watching that's interested in doing it too.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so. And like, there's typically misconceptions of fans to the wrestling industry, and we're all kind of, it's still real to us, damn it. Like, what would you say is one of the biggest falsehoods or misconceptions that general people have of us as wrestling fans?
I think there is. This might not be a false misconception. People expect wrestling to be perfect. And I think that that's actually something we kind of need to take with a grain of salt. Like, this is... You know how incredibly difficult it is to write a 3-hour television program and then to do it every 7 days?
No off season.
Every single week? 20 years straight or however many years they've been doing it. I mean, that's incredibly hard. And I think that one of the biggest problems is people look back at the Attitude Era and go, oh man, it'll never be as good as the Attitude Era was. It's like, yeah, the Attitude Era also had like Naked Midian and Mae Young giving birth to a hand. Like, there was some really bad spots in the Attitude Era, but we just remember like Rock Austin and Austin McMahon.
The milk truck and the beer truck.
Right. We remember the great stuff, but with the good, you have to take the bad. And I think that the biggest misconception is that every wrestling fan is like, and it might be correct, they're studying it like very closely and go, well, I think actually after the heel was bringing the heat in this match, I think they actually should have. I feel like just enjoy it for what it is. And I think that if you can just sit back and enjoy it for what it is, you'll appreciate it so much more.
Oh yeah, like early on I was like botch,
right.
And now it's like, ooh, how are you gonna kind of? Because I remember like watching like recently, like, oh, you fell through that botch perfectly. Like that could have been really bad, but you actually like guided your way back into the next move.
Like last week at TakeOver when Gonzalez comes in and during the street fight with Dakota Kai, Tegan Knox, and that choke slam, and you're expecting just this awesome table break, and then it's like, that was definitely not supposed to happen.
I am the table.
Wrestling is very difficult. And I say this as someone who trained briefly
Yes.
It is very, very difficult,
Yeah.
and it's so much more intricate than any fan could possibly even imagine. And I say that as a fan who has trained, and I can't imagine, or you can't imagine the type of work that goes into making a great match,
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
match.
For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I remember watching this video of Triple H early on with the Tough Enough people, and, like, just being brutally honest about what you're going to expect. Like, you're going to be gone a lot, and it's going to be tough. You're going to take hits, and you're going to keep doing it. I'd still like to take a couple shots. Like, what if you had to take one finisher a month?
One finisher a month.
You had to do
Just-
it. You have to do
okay.
it.
If you're living Groundhog Day and you just kind of wake
You're
up
every
and,
single month.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to take a finisher. What would you want to?
Am I taking it from the person who's famous for giving it?
yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this one person, it's just kind of that special package you get every
Huh.
day.
I'll say
Okay.
mine. I think I'd take a people's elbow. You know, it's not so.
Just the
bad.
people's elbow, or would you take the setup with the rock bottom people's elbow?
Yeah, I'd have to take the rock bottom as
That'd be
well.
a pretty good one, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Right.
it looks painful, but not
not a
as
painful
bad
one.
as some other ones. So I
No.
would take the rock bottom. Yeah, probably people's elbow, rock bottom combo.
What about you, other Eric?
I think I got to go Styles Clash.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that. Ow. They almost didn't allow that, but the GOAT, Chris Jericho, made sure that they had that move in the WWE.
That's such a good little Chris Jericho story
It's
as far
true.
as just doing it and then telling Vince, "Oh, yeah, no, that's
yeah,
what that is."
you need it.
Okay,
You need
yeah,
to
sure.
have it there,
Go
Vince.
ahead.
And he obviously,
Yeah.
Chris is before kind of moving on from WWE. He's a golden goose over there at WWE, so pretty much do anything you wanted.
I think that in terms of iconic finishers, I think you nailed it with the people's elbow or the Stone Cold Stunner would be a very iconic one. But I think that in terms of just like, it'd be so cool to take the tombstone from The Undertaker, have you cross your arms on your chest and then roll his eyes back.
Just
That'd be pretty damn cool.
I do remember my buddy pedigreeing me through the cardboard that he had.
Those were the
pedigreed me
days.
through the cardboard. It didn't hurt,
I
It
don't
was
know. The
fine.
pedigree
It was-
could go very wrong.
It could, yes, and I don't want to
Yeah.
go like Stone Cold where you got broken neck on on
Crunched
a
up
crunch.
and-
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
want that, but it wasn't that bad. It was just on my bump up the chest a little bit. You just take most of the
That move
chin.
can the margin for error on the pedigree
Yeah,
is
very slim.
very slim. I don't know if you guys have seen the video of me taking Gangrel's finisher.
yes.
So I took
Yeah.
his Impaler DDT at his wrestling school, and I'm like, I bumped before, I'll take this. And he lifts you up to do it, and you're supposed to land flat, kind of like the pedigree. And I jumped way too high, and I landed right on my head, like I spiked it. I'm like, that did not feel good. And I imagine the pedigree could go that way.
Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that happening, and
Well, I think there are
Yeah, I
famous
could do it.
videos of the pedigree, like with people landing on their
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
and
And to be fair, you did take the ankle lock from Ken
Yeah.
Shamrock.
Thank
And
you.
we do not
pretty well,
condone
pretty well.
these moves being done
Yeah, don't
without
try this at home.
supervision and by proper professionals. But we kind of do.
And don't tell anyone. I just kind of sold Ken Shamrock's ankle lock.
There you go.
So, we
He
were
was
just
kind enough to not
kind of
break my ankle.
yeah.
we're just kind of looking to wrap up. Here interview with Chris Van Vliet here, coming to the Eric Squared Circle podcast at 3 Points Brewery. We're just kind of finishing up with rapid fire, real quick, just easy things.
All right, let's do it.
I'll do the first
Okay.
one. Very simple.
Okay.
Pancakes or waffles? I already know mine.
I'm going to go waffles.
Oh man,
Yeah, just the texture of them. Also, pancakes,
Pancakes for
I feel
me.
like anyone can make pancakes. Waffles,
yeah.
there's something special about waffles.
I do love waffles.
Yeah.
I do love
They're
them.
both
I
good.
would say
You can't go wrong
pancake-
with either.
I just have such just wonderful memories of pancakes.
I had pancakes
Christmas
the other
morning.
day at Cracker Barrel. Their pancakes are incredible.
Oh,
Bomb,
Oh my God.
bomb,
What an underrated pancake.
so good.
bomb.
Right?
God, they're so good. They're so. They do have a pancake house in my hometown. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty freaking good. I can't get enough of it. I'm hungry as hell, by the way.
Yeah.
They have food
I
here?
promised I'd take it. They used to.
Oh,
They
okay.
do not anymore.
Just liquid
Yeah,
lunch.
but they do have a restaurant
Okay.
across the street
Oh,
that
well, there
delivers.
you go.
So
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
we got a few.
We got a few.
around
Just a few here in Cincy.
But next one, Coke or Pepsi?
Man, I haven't had a soft drink.
How long?
I don't. Jeez. I mean, I guess I've mixed it with alcohol.
That doesn't count. That counts.
Does it?
What would you choose then if you had to mix a bourbon?
Coke or I guess Coke.
I said-
but
I said
I
Coke.
haven't This is a pop state, right? Ohio's a pop state.
Yeah, they call
Pop.
it pop.
Yeah.
Soda.
Is it soda?
Come on.
That's why I called it soft
soda.
drink off the top there.
I'm
Yeah.
originally from out west,
There you
so
go.
I call it soda as well.
Yeah.
But everybody
I think
calls it pop.
Yeah.
So growing up in Canada, we call it pop everywhere.
Yeah.
And I can't. Ohio's on the fence, right? Don't some people call it soda? Some people call it pop.
I think majority of people call it pop.
Yeah. Yeah,
'cause
and then there's the
there's
select
us.
number of us that
And then
will
in the
correct.
South,
like,
they'll
it's
just
soda.
call everything Coke.
They call
What
it
flavor
yeah,
Coke do you
my
want?
dad's
What?
My dad's from Houston. They call
I'll have a root
everything
beer.
Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it'd be Coke, but I haven't drank pop in 15 years.
Good
I
for
need to
you.
do that. I
Wow.
just
Yeah.
If you're talking about losing weight,
yeah, that's the
cut
thing.
pop out of your diet and boom.
Yeah.
It's so much unnecessary sugar.
Yeah, it is.
I
It
think
really is.
that's
For
going to be
sure.
one of those things that we're going to look back on in 30 years and be like, can you believe people used to drink this stuff?
Yeah.
And now
Right.
whenever I have, if I ever like mix Jack and Coke or something, Coke tastes so sweet to me now. Like it tastes like
Yeah.
I'm drinking syrup.
Well, I remember when I was in basic and they wouldn't let you drink anything, and then 9 weeks later, they let you have a soda, and I take a sip of Pepsi, and I'm like, oh my god.
It's just like
Oh,
I
yeah.
literally felt it through my whole body.
Yeah.
It was weird, and that should be a pretty indicator. So, but if you're not drinking a soda or Pepsi at dinner, if you're having dinner with one of those potential Mount Rushmore guys, we're gonna pick between HBK, that's his favorite dude.
Okay.
That is mine.
And we're gonna
I
say
had to
Ric
throw
Flair.
that
Is
in.
he your favorite guy?
No, Chris Jericho's
yeah,
my
okay,
dude.
that's right.
Chris Jericho and Jan Maxley.
Good for you. Good
Those
for
are
you.
my
Justin
dudes,
would
and
be
it's funny
proud.
because that podcast of those two is probably one of my favorite
Oh, yeah.
podcast episodes
And
I've
I
ever listened
think
to.
they just scratched the surface too.
Yeah,
Actually,
those
I
two
know
could
they
do
did.
so much together. But yeah, out of those two, just because HBK ended Ric Flair's career in the WWE at least, yeah, who would you choose?
Well, I've had the good fortune of sitting down with Ric Flair a few times.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a legend, right? And Ric Flair's incredible, and I think there's a lot in wrestling right now that we can thank him for, the innovations
Right.
that he had. So I'm going to have to go with HBK just because I've never met Shawn Michaels. I've never been in
Okay.
the same room as him.
Sure.
And I would love to just pick his brain. I know that he's doing a lot of things in NXT,
Yeah.
the Performance Center, and
Which is great.
a lot of the great stuff
Yeah.
that you see with the rookies that are coming out of the Performance Center is attributed to Shawn Michaels. So I'd love to have a conversation with him about
You
that.
see a lot of guys kind of emulate themselves after what he did in the ring.
I'm also a big fan of how Shawn Michaels reinvented himself. I don't just mean in the ring, but I mean just as a
Right.
human.
Right.
Like Shawn Michaels had a real attitude and had this reputation for being a terrible guy for the longest time.
yeah,
and-
a lot of people do not like him backstage.
Right. And he's completely changed that, and it's gone the other way. Like he's on the completely other end of the spectrum. Everyone loves him. And I think that's a real testament to like life is long. And just because you were an asshole or a dick early on in your career or your life doesn't mean you have to be as your life continues
Sure.
on.
Right
And
on.
I think that what he's turned into now is a shining example of what we could all be as people.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. Country or top 40?
Probably more country now.
Nice.
I'm not listening to
You're not the Lady
It's a
Gaga
podcast.
or the Meghan Trainors
I mean, I don't dislike
or the
it.
Harry Styles.
I listen to a lot of I guess you'd call it like a pop punk, like a big Blink 182.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Some 41, Census Fails,
Yes.
Hawthorne Heights, Yellow
I was a
Card.
big Linkin
Very
Park
nice.
guy.
Okay. Trying to
Green
trying
Day.
to think
Peace,
of other
Chet
bands that I don't want to make people too upset here. Starting Line, All American Rejects.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
Like, I really like that type of music. And then what that has now morphed into with like the indie rock, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
with
yeah.
bands like the 1975 or the Midnight. And guys are probably like, I don't know what you're talking about, but someone listening is probably knowing who I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
no, I like those punk rock. I'm kind of like that on that kind of kick of like the Kygos and like the
Yeah, okay.
And
yeah.
like the Zeds and the Avicii's. Avicii's like I love Avicii.
That
Rest in
final
peace.
album, man.
I
so
mostly
good.
listen
So
to
good.
podcasts, though, because I think that if
Right.
I'm going to spend an hour at the gym, instead of just listening to some music, I'd rather spend an hour with one of those great minds,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
like we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. What would you say, Big Mac or Whopper?
I haven't had fast food in so long.
This guy is just too good, people. This guy is too clean. But we want to make sure if he has to choose between killing himself with a Big Mac or a Whopper, we want to know.
I'm gonna go with a Big Mac because the fries at McDonald's are way better.
They're so terrible, but they're so good.
So good. And McFlurries. I think McDonald's. They figured it out.
It's
The
so
fact that
bad.
they now have cookies there. Yeah. I've been to McDonald's recently, like maybe in the last year, because their breakfast is solid. But I haven't had fast food in so long.
Good for you.
Well, and then like our last one here, just in the spirit of Cincinnati,
Please.
and we got our sports. We're very diehard sports fans here,
Okay.
and it's a difficult relationship. I don't know if you know anything about it, but if you had to go to a Reds game or a Bengals game, what would you choose?
Got to go to a Bengals game. And I think
Who
there's
dey?
something so special about going to an NFL game. There's only 16 of them every year, only 8 home every year. I'm a huge baseball fan,
Same.
and my dad and I have a tradition of going to a different baseball stadium every single year. Yeah,
Nice.
we've been to 22 stadiums.
Nice.
It's an amazing
What's your
tradition
opinion
that I
of,
love doing with my dad. Great American Ballpark? Yeah, it's really good. It's a good modern ballpark. My favorites are Wrigley, Old Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, like the classics.
Yeah, the big boys.
But Great American Ballpark's a good one. I like that it's located.
It's a
right in
home
the heart
run
of the
hitter's
city, too.
paradise. That's
Yes.
home run derby
For
5
sure.
years ago.
Yeah.
Here was big show, and it was great. I
Insane.
mean, I'm a diehard. Actually, I was talking to a couple of my buddies before the surprise party last night, talking about upcoming draft and everything. They just like, I love your optimism. I'm like, it's because it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not optimistic around,
You might as
here,
well just be a
then
Browns
kinda
fan,
following
as far as
it.
I'm concerned.
Oh, I am a Browns
Oh,
fan.
God.
So that one stings. Yeah. So, but
Hey, how'd that
on,
last
buddy?
loss of the season feel, by the way, last year?
I know the Browns aren't good, but I say an NFL game
Yeah.
because there's only 8 home games a year.
Right.
There's 81 home MLB games a year.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's something almost sad about going to a baseball game in the middle of August when there's 8,000 fans or 12,000 fans
Right.
there. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
and I hate the argument will always be made. I heard it a lot in Cleveland. I'm sure it happens here all the time. Well, if they were good, I'd support them. I'm like, oh yeah, if they were good, you'd support them. Why do you go to Bengals games then? Well, that's different, man. This is a football town.
No,
I'm like,
I would say Cincinnati is a baseball town. That's the thing.
thought it was a sports town.
It's a sports town, but I would say overall, just in the history, it's a baseball town. Just because
Championships, yeah.
I'll go to a Bengals game, though. I'll go to a Bengals game, and just like they could be 2-14, and I love football, man.
People are really going to have to like figure something out with baseball here.
Yeah.
Like baseball is losing momentum at a terrifying rate.
Especially now with the Astros and everything that's going to
Yeah,
come
that's
out from there and the
And
league's
just
reaction
continuing to keep
all
Pete
of that.
Rose out of the Hall of Fame, which I find to be ridiculous. The greatest hitter of all time.
Wow.
Literally all
Right.
time. Unbelievable.
They're just making a statement with that.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
it'll never be heard, and it won't matter. Rob Manfred won't care. But the fact that you can just suspend a guy for literally cheating to get to a World Series and suspend a guy from the Hall of Fame for literally gambling on his own team, I find absolutely ridiculous. I love you, Pete Rose.
He's going to fall into the same category though as Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, A-Rod,
Sure.
all those guys who are great players.
They were great players, but Pete Rose is just a raw talent, and like what you saw on the field is exactly what it was, no matter what. No adjustments,
And didn't infect
Maybe he'll get
the
in
actual-
posthumously,
which drives me crazy. But
Have you
Right.
met Pete Rose?
no, unfortunately, I have not.
Oh, have you ever been to
not had
Vegas?
the pleasure,
It's been a
no.
long time.
Well, next time you go, or if you go to Double or Nothing too, Pete Rose is signing literally every day at a memorabilia shop. He'll sign anything.
I love that. I'd love to
Very
go see
cool.
He's there every
I'd
day.
go meet him. Absolutely,
Yeah.
Big Red Machine all the
But
way.
he's not signing autographs. He's
Okay.
basically, so you'd buy a baseball for $85, and it just happens to
Ah,
come
okay.
with a Pete Rose autograph, to Eric. So, but you're not buying an autograph. You're buying a
Which
baseball.
Eric are we talking about here? It could be.
let's be
I'm
You know.
the Reds fan. I don't know about you.
2E squared, I guess.
2E squared. Yeah. 2E squared. I like that.
That's better. Yeah, we'll just hang it up right here. Yeah.
But,
Nice little display. But,
That's pretty much all we were going to kind of get into with you here, Chris.
Thank you guys for
we
having me.
truly-
however,
Oh, we
I think
do.
I do have
Okay.
one
Okay.
more, though. I do
Hit me.
have
Hit
one
me.
more. I just want to see what you think about this, just
Sure.
off the cuff. How many McGriddles could Matt Riddle griddle if Matt Riddle could griddle McGriddles?
Very nice. Very nice. I don't know, 3, 4, 17.
There we go.
I said 37.
I like it.
Very well done.
37
well
McGriddles.
done.
And
Well, Chris, thank you very much for joining us today here at 3 Points. It's been an absolute
thank
pleasure.
you.
So,
Thank you so much.
good luck to you out in LA.
Good luck out there in West.
We're looking forward to seeing everything else that you guys have coming. Check out the Chris Van Vliet
Please.
Show every single
V.
Thursday. Leave reviews, comment, subscribe. He will read them on the air. We started doing that because of you.
Oh, good.
So just continue to support what he's doing, and don't forget to like
We're
and
here,
subscribe.
too.
We're on Facebook, Discord, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. Come find us. We want to hear from you guys. And Chris, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.